Well, hello all. So, a little bit bad news to start our video off, and that is that Biden, the President of the U.S., has now okayed more oil drilling offshore in the Gulf of Mexico, off the continental shelf, which is roughly all of the coastline along the Gulf, out to a line from the tip of Florida to the tip of Texas, and all that area. A total of 3 new oil areas will be drilled. Now, he promised that he would stop drilling as soon as he got into office. But of course, these promises that presidents make are always broken. That's law number 1. Break your promises. The people, he announced it, of course, late Friday, which means that most people won't even be watching the news until Monday or Tuesday, and so nobody will even notice that this has happened. They all think this out, and every president has done this. All the bad news is announced late Friday, so that the people will be duped and will not know that this is actually going on. But here on Pink Barrio, we're telling you exactly what's happening. Now, unfortunately, this adds to the 9,000 approvals of oil drilling that Biden has already done in his tenure. Now, I'm not saying that I could ever put up with a Trump presidency. I couldn't do that. Not another one. Not going into fascism and assassinating people and arresting media that doesn't toe his line. No way I would ever vote for another Republican, or definitely not Donald Trump. But I'm having a hard time doing anything with Democrats because they keep going back on their word as well. They're just not as bad. They'll never turn the country into fascism the way the Republicans are trying to do right now, as we get closer and closer to a shutdown of the U.S. government for no reason at all. None at all. They want to get a $5.5 trillion tax cut for the wealthy, which means cuts to Social Security, Medicare, child services such as giving food aid to the poor and housing aid to the poor in the U.S. They want to cut all that out so that the 1/10 of 1% of the billionaires in the U.S. can get a tax cut of $5.5 trillion. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Let's talk about what's happening around the world in our waters, our rivers, our oceans, and our lakes. We're going to take an example of South Carolina, another red state here in the U.S., and we'll talk about that next. Fish are contaminated. A new study has been released Friday from South Carolina. Dangerous chemicals are found in U.S. South Carolina's fish, crabs, and oysters. Concerns are growing about the threat of the toxins found in fish across the state. The South Carolina Department of Health has documented the pollutants known as forever chemicals, PCBs, dioxins, and chlorinated pesticides in the fish. In some cases, the pollutants were found at high levels. Now let's remember that. These pollutants are found in high levels. Not medium or low, but high levels. Many fish tests came from some of South Carolina's most popular spots for fishing. Fish with these chemical contaminants include largemouth bass, bluegill, channel catfish, and black crappie. The fish are traditionally eaten by recreational anglers. In July, the state of South Carolina reported on hazards created by the chemical tainted sludge that comes from the rivers that South Carolina farmers then spread on their land. So this tainted dredging that they dredge from the rivers there are spread onto the land where food is grown for you to eat. The South Carolina Department of Health found forever chemicals in rivers and drinking water showed that one type of chemical, PFOSs, showing up in fish tissues. That's forever chemical. South Carolina does not plan to issue warnings to the public about forever chemicals in the fish, oysters, and crabs. People have asked, when are fish safe to eat? Officials said the level of chemicals in the fish does not appear to be high enough to affect most people. Now this goes along with what I was saying about Republicans, is that unfortunately South Carolina is a Republican state and very conservative, so the state officials are not going to warn the people about the high levels of contamination in their fish, crabs, and oysters, and in the river bottoms where the sludge is dredged up and put on the land, so that their food is also contaminated with all these high levels of chemicals. That's what you get with a right-wing Republican legislature there in South Carolina. They personally don't think it's at the level to where they have to warn people. It'll just keep increasing. The pesticides and chemicals will continuously increase in the fish, on the bottom of the rivers, and on the land where you farm, until this will become a serious, serious problem. Whereas they could deal with it now, but unfortunately, because of who's in charge in South Carolina, the right-wingers, they don't care whether people are poisoned with these chemicals or not. It's up to you to figure out whether you're being poisoned or not. So just know, if you're in a red state, you probably should not eat the fish, oysters, or crabs, or any other thing out of the waters around your state or in your state. Just shouldn't be done, because you cannot trust the legislature to do the right thing. You know that's the case, and has always been the case, because red states are the most contaminated with these chemicals. Even left-wing states, such as California, where Gavin Newsom allows oil drillers to pump their wastewater onto farmlands, contaminating some of the Central Valley's farmland with chemicals that then enter the food chain, and the people of California and the world eat and get contaminated. So this is because we put in, here in the U.S., we put in some of the stupidest, ignorant people in office, both left and right. We are at fault for this, because they don't really care. They will only be in office 3 to 4 years, or maybe 8 years at the most, and then they're out of office, and nobody's going to go after them for okaying the eating of chemical-laced fish and other foods. So just know what's happening in your area where you live, and you have to watch out for yourself. You can't let politicians warn you of these terrible chemicals that are leaching into our food one way or another. I appreciate any comments you have on this, the ups, the new subscribers, and definitely the comments. And until next time.